Before we begin, thank you very much to John K. for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much for helping out the channel. You pitched in at the highest tier for my Patreon, which means you get to ask me for whatever video you want. As long as it's within TOS and kind of in the realm of what I do. Everything else is on the table, free game. Feel free to message me over on Discord and let me know what you want. And that is open to anyone who pitches in 15 a month. Thank you very much for it. Okay, it is time for another Q&A. I know it's a little bit late because my schedule this month has been kind of nuts. But we're going to go ahead and get on to it. You'll notice my schedule is nuts enough that we are currently at the toy shop doing this, which is a very rare thing. I'm going to try and sneak the recording in today, so yeah, if I have a lot of jump cuts, then please be mindful that, yeah, I'm trying to get this in through normally weird circumstances. Now, if you're new to this, or just if you need the reminder, then if you want to leave a question for the next Q&A video, please, by all means, leave it in the comments below. Please follow the guide that is on the screen right now. One question per person, so we can give everyone can get a turn. Please ask for quick answers. Do not ask me to come up with entire storylines or make entire like rosters of characters all right off the top of my head. Everything needs to be TOS, or else I will remove the comment. I will not answer it. And also, if you're just going to comment on the video or reply to something I said, please just mark it as a comment so we can, so we're not reading through everything that doesn't have a question. Also, yeah, please don't ask for Gundam or realistic gun transformers. We have done that on almost every single Q&A video to this point. It's just getting tiring. So that's the only limitation. That's the only limitation I put down. Beyond that, the first question is about Gun Megatron. Just to be quick about it, it's nostalgia. People want Gun Megatron so badly because it's nostalgia. It's how he was in G1, so that's the way people want it. Simple as that. Thoughts on the 94 Spider-Man cartoon? Really, really good. I wish it didn't rely so much on stock footage because it does take away from the visual value of the show. And the 90s CGI doesn't help it either. Story-wise, really good. I do enjoy the story of it. I wish it left off on a better note, but hey, X-Men 97's a thing. So we might actually get that at some point. Favorite Optimus backstory? Factory worker, data clerk, cop. I like the cop one because I do like him having some kind of sense of justice to him before he becomes a Prime. Rather than just like, oh, I'm just kind of working the docks today. This is my girlfriend. Don't really care about the war. And also, it puts him in line to be like in the senator role, where kind of makes more sense for him to kind of rise in the ranks and see the corruption behind the scenes of the Autobots, if that's the story. Like a lot of my answers, I would say that it also depends on what story they're telling, because sometimes, yeah, just being a lowly data clerk who just happens to be the chosen one, that can tell a good story too, depending on where your story is set and what you're doing with it. How would you feel about Generations making figures for The War Within? I really like a lot of the War Within designs. I would love to have them as full, fleshed out Generations figures. That would be really, really cool. It seems like if we're getting Alpha Trion, if we're getting Vector Prime this year as part of the 13 Primes as the next like anchor point for the next set of toys, next trilogy, then I would say I wouldn't be surprised to see War Within Fallen. Like that seems like a given at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool design work in there, and the only aspect, the only like representation we have of them is titanium, and we know how those turned out. So I would absolutely like them to go at it again. If the Ark crash landed in the Brazilian rainforest instead of in the American Southwest, do you think everyone's favorite Autobot leader would have been inspired to adopt the moniker of Amazon Prime after being revived? I mean, G1 didn't really do that, is the thing. Like, later Transformers kind of came up with their names based on, like what they turned into on Earth, or, they adapted their code name into something English. Optimus is always stays Optimus. And yeah, there's not going to be an Amazon Prime joke if they're still crashing in 1984. Let's see, which Megatron, Galvatron color scheme would you like to see on other versions of Megatron or Galvatron? That is curious. I mean, I always like the idea, like, I wouldn't mind, like, and I was gonna say, like, Energon, Megatron, and G1 colors, but we kind of got that, because kind of what Shattered Glass was. It's hard to find, like, which ones haven't been done. I mean, in general, the color schemes are just really good. Silver, black with hits of red, that's a really good color scheme. I wouldn't mind seeing that on just about any Megatron, really. Seeing the Armada with that would have been cool. If I'm like, I'm digging in my brain, is like proper Galvatron colors on like RID Megatron would be cool. He's already black and purple, but to be like purple dominant, I wouldn't mind seeing that either. I mean, it's it's a fun idea. It's a fun idea to kind of think about, you know. Like there are weird ones. There are weird ones. Like you mentioned Prime and Energon colors. Prime in like normal Galvatron colors would be cool too. Like especially like some of the upgraded forms. Like if they ever did a toy of his Unicron armor. Never did that one. Now that I think of it. Do you think Swindle will make the DJD list? No, because Swindle's out for his own. Swindle is definitely out for his own, but he's not working against the Decepticons' ideals. He's not working against their mission. So as long as you're not interfering with that, I don't think you're worth the DJD's time. They're after traitors. They're after deserters. They're not after someone who's just selling off scrap and old weapons. Also, thank you for the comments. I don't think I'm the best TF YouTuber. I don't even think I belong in that echelon. I'm just stubborn. I'm just stubborn to stick around and just keep making videos every day. How can IDW Machinima Mistress of Flame character be used in future media? Do you think we'll ever get a toy of her? So, and again, thank you. I appreciate anyone who would call me a favorite. Thank you very much. So the idea, like the Mistress of Flame, in order to use appropriately, you would either have to have like a secondary government underneath the like ruling party of Cybertron. Someone like the Mistress of Flame in concept could be used more for like a Forge Master character, someone who like oversees the creation of new Cybertronians. And yeah, there might be like a potential like religious aspect to that. Or it could be like a completely separate ideology or a completely separate rulership from what the Autobots rule, like Optimus Prime or whoever's in charge at the time may rule over a certain area of Cybertron, but here's this other area that, maybe doesn't believe, doesn't like follow Primus specifically. They're much more about Solus Prime, and they, follow a completely different lifestyle and mindset. You could do it that way as well. As long as the character has some kind of like high position and reverence in Transformer society, you could work with it. See, the Megabyte truck from the episode Bad Bob that transforms into Megabyte. That's actually not a bad idea. I remember that one. I do remember that one. There are actually a fair amount of notable vehicles in the Sonic series. Yep. Okay, rather than name off the whole ones, yeah, I do know that there are plenty of vehicles in Sonic. Like, just going with the racing games alone, you've got plenty of options. Almost for Transformers, I think the best bets you've got are things like what, Eggman was piloting. But even then, like, those would be pretty small Transformers. If you really want me to be interested in a Sonic Transformer, make it the egg carrier from Sonic Adventure. On top of the fact it already does like a bit of transforming on its own, That's a sizable vehicle. That is like proper, like giant transformer size. I would be down for that in an instant. Favorite Dragon Ball character? Gohan. But not Buu Saga Gohan. That includes Ultimate. I don't like Ultimate. But like Cell Saga Gohan for me is like peak Dragon Ball. And if the old, I never know, and now we'll never get full confirmation, unfortunately. But like, there's always been like, Toriyama wanted to end it there, or Toriyama wanted Gohan to be the hero from then on, or like, however they kind of approach that. Like, and I would have loved it if they did, because I think they got over dependent on Goku, and he's like the only character now that really makes a difference. It's, it's tricky. I mean, I like the current revival of Gohan. Like in Superhero, I like Gohan's kind of like resurgence. I like what they were starting to do with him in the Super manga before the hiatus. Hopefully that comes back and they touch on it again. Since Barricade went from Micromaster to a bad cop, what do you think of reimagining his Micromaster squad mates to be Decepticon police force? I think there is some merit to that, to have like a whole squad of Decepticons who are just like infiltrating the most protected of Earth's vehicles, like the most, the ones known to be like the good guy vehicles. I don't know about reimagining the entire Micromaster team. It's really just a name, like G1 Barricade and Movie Barricade have absolutely nothing in common outside of their names. So you have, you have potential there. I could see that being done. I like things like, when you repaint a Ratchet into a hazmat truck, that would have been cool. That's an idea I could get behind. Or different types of fire trucks that you could use. Like, you have potential for that. I like the idea. I do like the idea. Favorite episode of Digimon from any season? Whew, oh man, so many to remember. The one I think back to the most, I can't remember the episode, but it's the first time. It's when Kari encounters the Dark Ocean, and I love the episode because like I was really big on shipping TK and Kari back in the day. Kind of still am. Disappointed didn't pull the trigger on that one. But I remember that episode very strongly because the dub actually changed the dialogue to feed into the shipping. So like in the Japanese version, it's not very clear. Like it's a friendly relationship. In the American version, it is a little bit more toward the romantic side, which, okay, that part I liked. I liked the build up and the anticipation that Kari really did have something important to her. I don't like that they just kind of dropped it. I heard once upon a time that there was supposed to be like the whole like Myotismon coming back was like a quick fix to end the series because they ran out of budget or got like 13 or so episodes cut short. I would like to believe that, and that the final episodes were supposed to be about like the Dark Ocean saga. I would like to believe that, but it just kind of remains like one of those like mystery elements of the series they never really got back to, and like that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to leave off notes like that. Admittedly, I don't know if Try picked up that story or not because I didn't watch all the way through. Okay, thank you, Soundwave. I do appreciate the people who just use, like, even if you're just using me as background material. I know a lot of my videos can be very much, treated like a podcast. Do something and play it in the background while you're doing something. That's fine. As long as you're here, as long as you're vibing, we're good, and I appreciate it. If you could choose one Sentai team to get a Shattered Glass variant and have them go up against the heroes, which team would that be? So, I think it's an easy answer because it's my favorite Sentai team, but I think an evil spin on the Bokengers would have been cool because then you're not dealing with those trying to, rescue treasures and preserve them. You're dealing with treasure thieves. It's like the antithesis of the adventurer. The adventurer wants to go exploring and find whatever. The thief knows what they're after and they are in it for themselves, not the thrill of the exploration. So you have a much bigger like dichotomy between the two. I like how polar opposite they would be. If you notice jump cuts here and there, that is because I'm trying to sneak this in during shop hours. So yeah, I'm gonna get interrupted here and there. So you'll excuse me if that happens. Uh, I'm trying to do it on a quiet day though, so hopefully that worked out. Um, what are some Transformers names who you would change and why? So for me, it's not like copyright or like not fitting the character translate well, like because I could go for like changing weird names, you know, like we have Calicar, Monocle, bad names like that. Absolutely, I would want to change those. Prowl 2, still the dumbest name they've ever done. For me, it would be more about avoiding confusion across characters. You know, I would love for us to have a different, name. Like, look at like in Beast Wars, we have two different Prowls and two different Silverbolts. You know, you look at Transformers on the whole, and we have three completely different characters named Scourge, and all of them are major characters in their fiction. I would love to change some of those, and not only to avoid the confusion, but to also better cement their identity. You know, if you tell someone you really like Scourge from Cybertron, well, not everyone's seen Cybertron, so they might immediately think, a Cybertron Optimus had a black repaint they missed or something. Things like that cross my mind. Like, not so much. I'd really like this to be switched up because this doesn't sound right or name. Again, I think name is just an identity. There's bad ones out there that should sound cooler, but that's still kind of who they are. I would just like to clear up who is all. The next crossover's Transformer will be Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Which monster is it? Also make it Commander class. You know very well it would be the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and the robot it turned into would be very Seto Kaiba influenced. And unfortunately, like, as cool as it would be to make a Commander class, it would be a full-on retool, or at least a reuse of the engineering for Transmetal 2 Megatron. It would be. And I wouldn't object to that in the least. Do a Karibo, you cowards. What's your preferred alt mode for Alpha Trion? It's fun to know that there's so many Lion Alpha Trions now, all based on the fact that OTFCC wanted to do that from a Beast Machine Snarl figure and never actually got it made. And then you run into like Titan's Return and Transformers 1 where he's a lion now, which is fine. It's cool. I really just kind of prefer the spaceship for Alpha Trion because, he's an ancient transformer. It's like one of the only vehicles that kind of fits that. And I like the idea that it, like, just, like, some kind of ancient-looking junker, Like, there's one thing about retooling him as Scourge. The vehicle mode's way too sleek for Alpha Trion. It really is. Like, I just prefer him to be, like, when, like, the vehicle mode he has in Titan's Return, that's just this boxy, like, blockade runner-looking thing, that's the vehicle mode I think fits him. Yes, I didn't expect to talk about Has-Been on this channel at all either. What would you like to see out of Kamen Rider Gov? I need to do a video for Gov just to get my thoughts out there. I'll be honest, I really do not like much of anything I've seen about Gov so far. I really do not like the toy gimmick. I don't like the belt. I'm already like a big, like, it's already big, like, thing with me that there's just like, I don't like a belt with a hand crank on it anymore. I feel like we've gotten that too many times. And just like the chewing gimmick to it, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. The main design is cool. And then the candy designs, I think, are some of the dumbest looking forms a Kamen Rider ever had. So I'm probably not going to follow the series. I'm not really looking forward to it or anticipating it. I really can't tell you what I want from it because, like, what I've been given so far, I don't want. Let's see, would it be cool if Legacy Tarn is remolded, retooled into IDW More Than Meets the Eye Megatron? Would it be cool if Legacy Tarn is remolded, retooled into IDW More Than Meets the Eye Megatron? I'm gonna say no on that one. The body types are just way too different. Like, no matter what amount of retooling you do, you're not gonna remove the treads from around the shoulders on Tarn. At that point, to redo it, to put those somewhere else, you might as well just make a whole new figure. I would love to see like a proper like IDW Megatron in the main line. But Tarn's probably not the way to go about it, unfortunately. What members of the remaining combiner teams would you like to see get the swindle treatment in some future form of future media? So the thing with swindle is like there's always somebody in each combiner team that just kind of stands out on their own a little bit, and I kind of mentioned this in a previous video. So it's like Slingshot has had moments to shine, and they've actually done little things to focus on his characterization. First Aid in G1 as well. So some of the some of that has already been covered. Um, Honestly, I'm like thinking about it. Like some of them, like the Constructicons, I failed to think of anyone who would stand out enough to make me go, I want to see them get a full thing. Maybe Mixmaster because he's supposed to be kind of like a mad chemist type. I'd like to see him stand out a little bit more. For the Technobots, Afterburner, uh, I'm trying to remember the characterization they got. So like Afterburner was super aggressive. Lightspeed super laid back. Nose cones kind of dim. Things like that. I don't know. Like I feel like Beachcomber and Lightspeed need a bromance. I would be okay with Lightspeed stretching his legs that way. The other ones, God, I can't remember the other ones well enough. Like Terracons were like nothing characters. Like at that point, I'm just picking my favorite designs. So like Cutthroat might be like I want him to stand out because I like Bird Guy. Let's see, comments. Appreciate the comments, but we don't read them for these. Just so we're trying to save time. Since Cybertron Optimus is your favorite Transformer toy, would a Megatron work by using similar design traits and play features as Cybertron Optimus Prime? That threw me off for a second. I mean, the thing is, like, Megatron never gets the super mode treatments the way Optimus Prime used to get them all the time. And that's because he's the villain character. The villain character gets a lot of gimmicks, but the hero character gets to do the super mode power up thing. Because remember, it's Japanese storytelling. There's a lot of writers in there that can't keep things like Super Saiyan out of their mind. So, yeah, that's basically what super modes are for Optimus Prime in the animes. It's him powering up to get into bigger fights. Megatron really never needs that because he's always balanced to be far stronger than Optimus in his standard mode, and then maybe a little bit weaker than Optimus when Optimus is super. But yeah, like I'd love to see a Megatron that kind of gets the same treatment, where like maybe he's this huge tank and then splits off into like a smaller attack vehicle that's the actual robot, and then you have a bunch of bulk to be like a battle platform or super armor for him. It's the play value of Cybertron Optimus Prime I enjoy. If you're doing a Megatron with the same type of play value, I'm in. Let's see. Do you think some characters such as Skywarp and Cosmos work better as females? It's my default answer, but it's always the one that is most true. It depends on the story you're telling. I think characters like that you really have very little representation of in fiction, you can get away with that a little bit easier than you can like highly established characters. But it really just depends on what you're working with. Like Nova Storm and Skywarp in Earthspark work as female characters as like a twin sister act. That one works. I can work with that. Cosmos being like this kind of like a female sidekick, type character in Cyberverse, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think they work better or worse. I just think it just depends on how you're using them in the story, and how you depict them. With the Transformers toy line from 2025 to 27, we'll focus on the 13 primes. Which prime are you most hyped for, and what universe do you think they'll be based on? The ones I'm most interested in as far as like what they're going to be based on are the ones that like the ones that feel like um they need to come up with their own style, because like I feel like they're going to go with the most popular depictions of all the 13. So like we're getting an Alpha Trion who's probably going to be very G1 in style. Our Vector Prime is Cybertron rather than the one that's, like in the Generations book. Some will be Generations. It'll always come down to what is their most well-known depiction. The ones I'm most interested in are things like Liege Maximo, because his most well-known depiction is literally one image, the very final image of the Marvel comic run in G2. That's like the one you know him as, and then there's a very small, very boring version that's in IDW. And I get the feeling the IDW design is going to get the nod there. And I really, really want them to figure out how to do like super, like robot Cthulhu looking Liege Maximo. I would rather them do that. Would you ever do an updated collection video? I've kind of explained this before. My collection is not really in the state that it used to be. I don't have nearly as many shelves up to displaying them. I'm relying a lot more on storage bins for my collection these days, so it's not as visually special anymore. I am planning something of a room tour, but my current setup, and and then other things are under major overhaul right now. So I don't really want to do it until all of that is finished. So you'll see it soon. You'll see it at some point. Maybe soon was an overstatement. Do you have Lego Bumblebee? Good timing, because that just got revealed and released not too long ago. So no, I do not have Lego Bumblebee yet. I've had a very expensive month worth of time in July and the beginning of August here. So Lego sets like that are going to be around for a couple years, I'm not in a huge hurry to grab. It is a cool looking set. I appreciate that they made that they're continuing their Transformer projects. I just did the rounds of my local Targets, and I did not actually see any Bumblebee in the Lego section. So that's going to be one where I put off for quite a bit, but I will get it at some point. My friend and I have been wanting to get into Kamen Rider, but have no idea where to start or what to start with. Wondering what you recommend as a first Kamen Rider experience. So, I usually give the same advice. It really just kind of depends. I usually base it on what you like in anime. So, if you like something more slapstick and comedic, I would say Den-O is a good start. If you like something more dramatic and serious, I would say Kabuto. We've had a lot of really good beginner series come out recently. O's is a really good show for your first time with Kamen Rider. Even Double would be, but Double is like a weird concept piece, so maybe not that one, but it's a really good show still. It really just depends, like what looks good. I have a friend who got in on it on X8, which is one of the weirdest looking Kamen Rider series, but he loved it. So really, I would say look at the lead writers in the series, so you get an idea for the aesthetic. Read like the wiki summary, obviously not the full story beat, but like the little bit of like, this is what the series is about. If it sounds cool, just go for it. Just absolutely just go for it. There isn't a wrong place to start Kamen Rider, except ZO and Decade, because they'll spoil stories that you might want to go back and watch for yourself later on. Longtime fan, first time asking a question. Thank you very much for participating. Do appreciate it. I'm glad you're liking Here's 10, by the way. Like, that was just the idea in my head. Like, it's cut me off from doing top 10s, which is unfortunate, because now I'm doing one every week. But it really is just a nice little, like, way of, like, looking over the entirety of the Transformers continuity and 40 years of it. And it's a great refresher for me, too. Your dislike of clear plastic is one of the few things I disagree with you on. Is there some way to make clear plastic both look good and make it durable? So here's the thing. Clear plastic can look really good. Don't get me wrong. Like, visually, it looks cool. Done in certain ways, it looks incredible. There are those scanning series figures they did for, like, the movie toys, where it's, half clear, half, like, like, half painted, so it has this, like, really cool transitional effect. That's a really, really cool effect, and you can only do it with clear plastic. Enter John Starscream. You can only do the ghost effect with clear plastic, and those look great. That said, I hate the fact that clear plastic doesn't handle stress over long term, and it does not age well. So that's where my distaste comes from. Not visually, not aesthetically. Now, the only way you can get around that is they just need better quality material. There is clear plastic that has been able to withstand 40 plus years of, being parts of a toy, but, and they're fine, but, things are a little bit cheaper these days. They're, hinges are, they're produced in as thin as possible to get away with tolerances, but that kind of breaks things, things like that. So the parts could be thicker. That would help. The parts could be a little bit more opaque. I noticed that translucent plastics that are darker tend to be more durable. Or you can just do inserts. You can do clear plastic windows as just inserts instead of huge pieces of clear plastic that are then painted so that only the windows are exposed. There are definitely ways around it, but all of it would take more money to produce, and that's something Hasbro's not going to be doing, unfortunately. If you could pick one TFA character who had never had a toy made, which character would you choose to get a new figure of? We have the listing for it. It's Wasp, because Wasp told a really cool and interesting story. Never got a toy. That sucks. The Constructicons would be a close second, because I would love to see what they were actually going to look like and how they would actually work. Buddy of mine's 3D printed a few. Sam Makes Toys over on Twitter has 3D printed a couple of them, and they look and perform really, really well. So it would have been cool. Since you'll have a lot of new viewers who want to know your opinion on the banned questions, but generally don't know if you're answered hundreds of times before channel, have you started doing a frequently asked question video? I have. It's just a matter of me having the time to sit down and go like, okay, what are the 20 things I get asked the most? Like, why can't they make Gun Megatron? What do you think of Gundam, etc.? I will do that at some point. And every time I do one of these Q&As, I kind of hone in a little bit more on which ones to actually include in the Q&A. But that's something we definitely have to do at some point. Do you think instead of licensing out their smaller brands, Hasbro would temporarily make them sublines of their major brands? So that's actually an interesting idea, but for one, you're going to muddle the identities of the brands a little bit too much. On paper, mixing your G.I. Joe with your Mask makes sense. And the comic books actually certainly thought so. But on a toy aisle, not so much, because now you've got transforming vehicles being sold alongside non-transforming vehicles, so that might get confusing. It's also going to make the price points very, very different from vehicle to vehicle. That retailers aren't going to like things that take up the same amount of space but are very differently priced. And right now, like, you can call G.I. Joe a major brand, but really it's just the 6-inch line, and 6-inch figures don't get vehicles at retail, so Mask doesn't really have a place. Rom, I don't think works in Transformers, despite IDW cramming him in. Like everyone asked me, like, IDW Rom, like no, let's just like Rom in general had a new Marvel Legends toy. Are you gonna include it in the news roundup? No, because I feel like he's crowbarred in. So maybe not necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing, like, weird things, like, especially, like, you mentioned Magic the Gathering. That's a great place to just do, like, random, like, Hasbro pulls. But I I think ultimately that's more just going to take away from what is supposed to make each brand special. If you had to choose another Transformers generation to cross over with the Unicron trilogy, which one would you choose? Prime is not a bad pull, but more or less, it would probably be the War for Cybertron aspect of the Prime, like the aligned continuity. Aesthetically, I think it would fit a lot of the Cybertron characters better. Um, and Cybertron deals with a very different story. We don't get to see like the war between Autobots and Decepticons on Cybertron the way we normally do, because the whole thing is about Cybertron just got swallowed by a black hole. And now it's transforming into Primus. So the aspect of like them existing on Cybertron is taken away. I feel like if you cross those over, you can get some potential you didn't get out of Cybertron before. If another common Sentai Go Rider crossover were to happen, but the suits were based on different Sentai or riders, which design would you choose? You're asking me to choose a full team. You're asking me to choose a full team. Please do not do that. How would you rank all the issues of Skybound Transformers so far, from best issue to worst issue? Admittedly, I don't remember issue numbers in my head. I can't tell you. I can't tell you the issue number where like Spike gets shot. I can't like offhand. I can't remember what issue numbers when Soundwave took over. I want to say 7. So I can't really tell you, like, this was a good issue, this was a bad issue. Honestly, we're so early into that run, I think that's a really unfair thing to ask, because I think all the issues have been good so far, because they're still telling one solid story. I don't think I've seen necessarily a bad issue yet, because they've all been in service to just the one story we've been told. When we get about 25, 30 issues deep, then we could probably pick out one that's, like, specifically the worst, but I think at this point, you're just going to be arguing semantics and personal preference more than anything. Who would win, G1 Metroplex or Cybertron Metroplex? G1 Metroplex is way bigger than Cybertron Metroplex. I'm going to tell you right now, like they're giants in Cybertron, but they ain't entire city giants. No, like that's a G1 Metroplex win. And yeah, the other thing about G1 Metroplex, way more firepower. Way more firepower than Cybertron Metroplex. Came up with the idea of creating a Transformers toy line based around the fusion of vehicles and characters, such as making unique characters, a mix of vehicle mode parts, similar to how Beast Wars Fusors work, and even mixing popular characters together a bit, like how Optimus Megatron make Gilthor. Do you think the idea could work? It'd be a really twisted way of getting Marvel, Ratchet, and Megatron as a toy. That'd be a really twisted way of doing that. I mean, fusion of vehicles and characters could potentially work, but again, you're getting into like a really gimmicky mashup thing that is not really going to appeal to nostalgia. I think you're going to have really cool vehicles and ideas out of that. They're going to be very unique, but is anyone really going to buy a Bumblebee with parts of Starscream integrated into him? I don't know. I don't personally think so. I think you come up with cool designs, but I don't think you come up with something marketable. So based on like, do you think this idea would work? I think on a visual level, yes. I think on a fun toy level, yes. Do I think on a sales level? Probably not. So that really kind of depends on what your goal to that is. If a future Transformers film used a combiner team as the antagonist, which team would you want them to use? Probably the Combaticons. There's a temptation there to use Terrorcons because they're more monstrous, but I don't want monstrous villains in Transformers movies because we've done that too many times. This is why they're so forgettable. But an organized combatant team like the Combaticons, that serves as a really intimidating thing. We kind of had that with how many military vehicles were in the first movie. But if they had like a unified mindset, goal, and yes, a combination for the final battle, you could get into some really, really cool visuals. Yeah, so it's going to be Bruticus for me. Ooh, long one. All right. See, been watching videos related to animated lately and getting that new animated Motormaster. So here's a random question. Uh, for a little bit, we got to see them. Do you have a favorite out of the animated Stunticons, whether it be how they were handled as characters, how they represented weird situations, them both Autobot molds and so forth? Dragstrip's always been a personal favorite out of the team, and I always thought it would be interesting. They made animated Dragstrip one of the many repaints for RC. I would probably go with the same. Because a lot of it comes down to like I'm not a fan of how they treat Wild Rider because they had to adapt the lockdown mold for that. Um, like I'm trying to remember that. I'm trying to remember like Dead End being Jazz. That's kind of fun. Didn't really like the Hot Rod looking breakdown. There is something funny about redoing RC into drag strip. There is something like novel about that I kind of enjoy. Now it really only works on animated RC because she actually has, more of a low to the ground race car vibe to her that you don't really get out of a lot of the other RC toys. So it might only be like the one time, but yeah, like that would be my pick too. That's the one I seem to remember the best. What Transformers crossover toy would you really like to see? The car from Stephen King's Christine as a Decepticon, or the Thousand Sunny from One Piece as a Titan with the Iron Pirate General Frankie as its companion figure, or its headmaster? So, admittedly, I don't follow Stephen King stuff. And to my knowledge, Christine is just kind of a normal car, which is kind of like very basic for a crossover, and I wouldn't really be into that. Also, I'm not sure you're going to get a whole lot of crossover between Transformer fans and Stephen King fans. The Thousand Sunny is a way better prospect, not only because, it's way more popular, but also transforming pirate ships are just cool. I've only seen 2 in my life, and I would love to have more. It wouldn't be Titan. You're not going to get a Titan as one of these. That's just way too much money to spend on a mold they're not going to get to reuse. But like a large leader size figure like that I would be down for. And here's the thing, I don't even watch or read One Piece. I just want more transforming pirate ships. Do you like to still see a reissue of the Titans Return, Misfire, Trigger Happy, or Slug Slinger, or as new generation line Target Master Seeker molds? Seriously, I'm starting to dry up here. At this point, we've gone so far from those original figures. I'd really like them to just be redone. As not headmasters, given their Titan Master partners. We've seen with Point Blank that they can do that now. They can actually work those partners into the mold cost. I'd really just like to see them redone the way that a lot of others have been redone. And I know the Titans Return it's just like crazy expensive on the aftermarket. I don't mind some things being less special. Like I wouldn't want them reissued at this point. I just want them to do them again, but more accurate and better to the originals. On Pokemon Sun and Moon, personally, I love the story, especially Lusamine as a villain. I don't think that really qualifies as a question. Are you asking me if I like the story of Sun and Moon, which I will tell you, I don't remember it much offhand. If I'm being totally honest with you, I don't remember it offhand. So I'm sorry if it does not stick with me. I'm like starting to piece it back together. I do like your connection to the other characters in that one. I did like that aspect. Having to take care of your like eventual legendary through the whole game, that was a really smart idea. That really helps your connection to like the icon character or big important character for the game. That one I like. That aspect I thought was really good. With Studio Series Gamer Edition being a thing, which character from any Transformer game would you like to see get a toy in the line? Sorry. Whew. Oh god, this is a lot. That's a lot to pick through. I wouldn't mind them taking another stab at Grimlock, because the original one is cool, but it, like, a lot of people like made the comment like it's very hollow, and it kind of is because they were maxing out the budget by making him as big as possible. So yeah, to see him again as like a leader class, that would be, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that. But again, like, we just went through all the Grimlock. We just went through all the Dinobots, so maybe not start that again. What I would really like is do the Insecticons again, because they did Kickback, but they didn't do Bombshell or Shrapnel. I would love a full set of them, because I really, really like that Kickback design. What's your favorite recent hidden gem figure? One you find super underrated and worth giving more attention to? I mean, I think I think it's hard to find underrated figures these days because everyone just hypes up so well now on social media. Like, if there's a toy that comes out and everyone's into it, right? If there's a good toy that comes out, everyone's talking about it. If anything, I think a lot of the stuff that gets super underrated is the kind of stuff that falls under the privy. I really liked the Rise of the Beast core series figures, like the ones that were supposed to be mainline but didn't make it out. A lot of those are really good. I've sung the praises of that Air Razor. I made it one of my top 10 toys of the year for a reason. But there's other good ones there too. I have more fun transforming that version of Mirage than the Studio Series version. I think that's the better toy. Not as accurate, but the better toy. I also, I would say, like, the Optimus Prime is good in that one. The Rhinox, I thought was like one of the first toys that really kind of nailed a Rhinox transformation. So, yeah, I think those fall under the underrated category for me, but I think that's just because it was so hard to access them for so many people. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, like, the pre-ordering thing is what you have to do these days because distribution is terrible. Like, I just went to my Walmart, and they still have, like, Wave 2 United, not even close to up to date. Yeah, that's kind of the way to do it these days. How did online pre-ordering differ back in the 2000s and 2010s compared to now? So, a lot weren't as nice about it as they are now. Pre-ordering back then, you would have to pay up front most places, or you'd have to pay a deposit. These days, places that offer pre-orders are like, yeah, we'll just charge you when it comes in. The dates were a lot better. If they told you a toy was coming out in May, it came out in May. That was nice. I'm trying to think. One of the major things, one of the biggest differences is, like, when you pre-order import toys back then, you were waiting for a store in the US to actually get a hold of them and then ship it out to you. So, you had to wait a lot longer for a store to get its shipment and then do their shipping. These days, you can pre-order straight from Japan, which is way easier. You would think more expensive because of the shipping costs, but really you had to pay you already had to pay a shipping cost when you bought from, a local importer. And you're still kind of getting that and seeing that a little bit. Like Big Bad Toy Store still imports toys, from Takara. So you do still get that to an extent. But back then, it was like something of like a blessing when, like, a store like Hobby Link Japan started just taking orders from the US. Oh my god, that was game changer for a lot of us. See, now that we know the Commander price point is available for Studio Series, would you like to see the Age of Extinction Grimlock get a secondary release to better scale with the other characters? Not necessarily. Because the Age of Extinction Grimlock they did for Studio Series is already a really, really good figure. I don't necessarily need it to be gigantic, because, it would scale better as a commander. But here's the thing. I want the rest of the Dinobots. That's one of the few areas Studio Series has not gone into yet. So, I don't want them to start over. Because if they start over and make them all like that, then you're trying to get all of them out as like Grimlock is a commander and the rest is leaders, which you could technically do. But then we're in that same situation we were with the 86 Dinobots, where we have to wait a year in between each figure, and it takes, 4 years or something to actually get the entire set. And I don't know if Studio Series has enough legs for that, because it's been it's kind of scraping the barrel at this point, figuring out how to keep that toy line going. We've already answered. Okay, I don't know if I can't remember if Jet Seekers posted this before, or if two people had the same idea. But no, yeah, we answered the Orion Pax backstory. It depends on what story you're telling, but I kind of prefer him as the beat cop. Do you think it'd be cool / fun / interesting for Hashtag or a third-party company to come out with a line of build-it-yourself Transformers where it comes with pre-painted parts on the runner, all the pins, adhesives, and everything else needed to fully assemble the figure? On a model kit aspect, yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun, just to kind of like figure it out yourself. I will tell you, it's never going to happen for a couple reasons. Number one, there is an aspect to the assembly that you are neglecting, and that is the pin process. Because the pins that hold a Transformer together, they're not just nailed in. The pins actually have a bunch of teeth on one side of it that embed themselves into the plastic. And if you try to do that when the plastic is cold, all you're doing is carving out plastic, and it's not doing anything. It needs to be punched in when the plastic is warm and slightly malleable. Not to a safe degree. Like, this is something you need to stick a soldering iron into the hole for to accomplish yourself, which for a kid is going to be very dangerous, and you're not going to include a soldering iron with every toy that you sell this way. But that's the only way to do it. When the plastic is still malleable, it'll sink itself into the teeth on that pin, and that's what keeps the pin in there permanently. So you're not going to get it because that process is not safe to do at home. Also, that's basically carte blanche for anyone who wants to make knockoffs of Transformers to go, here's just a full Transformer on a sprue already. Let's just make a mold out of this. You're basically just telling them, hey, this is how this is the toy reverse engineered. You have at it. You just make as many as you want. It's the same reason BotCon, custom class figures, you weren't allowed to take them home unless you assembled them there. Because they didn't want just the raw sprue getting out of the company, getting out into the public. Because it makes it way too easy to copy the toy. Let's see, we have more comments. Okay, what about a show? Instead of the Autobots and Decepticons being trapped on Earth, our heroes and villains travel to various planets to reunite the remaining Cybertronians, escape the planet, but was not aboard the Ark or the Nemesis. You're almost describing Transformer Cybertron. Like visiting all the different colonies and like aligning all the different Autobots and Decepticons across the universe. So, it is an interesting plot. Excuse me. I will tell you a big reason why they set the plot on Earth so much is because that is how they raise the stakes for the storyline. Because when it's just some random planet in danger for just a couple episodes, who cares, But when it's Earth, that, because most people watching are from Earth. So when it's stuff that we know that's in danger, and it's human lives in danger, there's a much stronger connection. So that's the reason why a lot of those stories are set on Earth. Like, you have to really establish and get people to really like characters from off-planet in order to add value to their story when they are somewhere else. It is a fun idea of like a Transformer series where they just travel the Ark and the Nemesis and they just try to recover as many fallen Autobots and Decepticons as possible. At some point, you do need to explain, why these two sides keep ending up running into each other. You'd have to tell stories completely from the Decepticon side of things where, they're investigating a planet, fighting off Autobots to rescue a Decepticon, or, you know, vice versa, and then only a few times the Autobots and Decepticons actually clash mid-space. It's not a bad plot idea, though. It's not a bad plot idea. You mentioned Spaceballs, and now I have to ask, would you want a Titan-class crossover figure of Spaceballs 1? Yes! If you could actually figure out how to make that ship turn into Mega Maid, yes. And this is one of those situations where I would say, you know, maybe like you can't get away with a Titan class of a crossover figure, but it's Spaceball 1. You the Titan, like the vehicle mode of it would be like the gag of the vehicle. The gag of Spaceball 1 is that it's so freaking long. You know, you know, yeah, like you'd have to sell it in a kind of box, like some like oversized novelty sandwich would come in, like that kind of thing. I need that now. Yeah, I need that. Which mold would you rather see get used to make a new Laser Cycle Soundwave? Studio Series 86 Scrap Peak, Legacy Animated Prowl, or Legacy Crash Bar? Out of those, Prowl's definitely the best of the toys. I don't know how much you can rework that to actually make a Laser Cycle Soundwave, though. See, at this point, Laser Cycle Soundwave is just a repaint of Road Pig. And now we have a Road Pig coming out. So, if Hasbro is to be believed, and they do what we expect, I really would not be surprised if we did get, like, a Laser Cycle. Now, I don't know what it would be called, because they didn't call, Laser Cycle Jazz. They just called him Laser Cycle. I don't know what you do with a Soundwave version of that, but now that that mold's done, now that mold's there, that's a very doable thing. What do you think the odds are of Mini-Cons replacing Core Class? Only if you drop the price down to like $5.99, maybe $6.99 if the engineering is complex enough. I could see them doing that because there is such a demand for mini-cons to go with all these Armada toys they're coming out with, and we know they're coming out with more because we've seen the listings. So there's absolutely room for there, even if it's just like a one-year thing, even if it's just done for 1 year. I think the fear of doing mini-cons is the fact that the Target Masters they were doing, the Battle Masters they were doing around the Prime War trilogy, those bombed. Those did not do well. So I think the worry is possibly repeating that with such small figures. But that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. I wouldn't mind them just doing a run of like small, like very small figures at retail that are just mini-cons. What video game characters would you make would make for good Transformers crossovers? Jeez, there's so many game characters to pick from. Robotic game characters come to mind, like obviously Mega Man. Anything from Armored Core. Metal Gear. Can I get a Metal Gear that actually turns into like a Solid Snake based robot? Oh my god, like I was trying to come up with robotic characters, which is what made me think of Mega Man, which is what made me think of Armored Core. And Armored Core's aesthetic is what made me think Metal Gear. And now all I can think of is I want a transforming Metal Gear Rex that turns into Solid Snake. Oh my god, I want that so bad now. Okay, Jack, you're not, like, don't feel like you have to make a question. I appreciate the interaction, but, like, I think just don't, you just have to ask things that are, like, a little bit more simple is all. Like, I know a lot of Q&A questions here come across as, like, would you do this whole video? Would you do this, is this the whole thing? Like, here's a thing you could do. It's like an entire series of videos type of thing. Just ask, keep it simple. You don't have to overthink the questions and give me these huge scenarios. It's just, what do you want to know? That's it. Doesn't have to be anything. You could ask me my favorite color. Green. How come the more supernatural side of Transformers universe doesn't ever really get expanded on, touched upon, doesn't have a designated character to represent it? Most likely because you are dealing with a kid's franchise, and when you get into like the supernatural side of things, then you could err into the side of being like more morbid, and getting into topics that, maybe kids aren't really ready to deal with. So things like that are kind of why you don't really see the approach there. You'll see a ghost character once in a while, like Starscream. We'll see that once in a blue moon. But I think that would approach topics that might get a little bit heavy for kids, at least the kids that Hasbro directs their product at. There is a lot, because we have had a lot of like spiritual aspects to Transformers. And we have like a Transformer afterlife that never really gets explored. But we never, it's still like, that's a lot. That's a heavy topic to bring up for a kid's franchise. So I don't think they want to delve too far into it. That's probably why you don't see much exploration of it. In your opinion, barring the movie designs, who do you believe has the worst redesigns in Transformers? Energon Optimus comes to mind. It's not really much of a redesign as much as it is just like reshaping him to accommodate his combination gimmick. Beast Machine Silver, yeah, Beast Machines comes across a lot. Armada Sideswipe, I wouldn't say is a redesign. That's just a new character using the same name. So things like that, I don't really apply. If you want the really bad redesign, look up what almost became Animated Sideswipe, because I can't remember what they changed his name to, but the first concept for it, when people saw it, was so universally panned and hated that literally everyone went, "Don't do that. Rename it. We don't want it. Don't, get rid of it. Please, please no." Changed his name. He only appeared in the comic books. He's a really weird, bad design, and it was going to be Sideswipe at one time. That still reigns as like the king of the bad redesigns for me. Do you think that with the exploding popularity of anime, Hasbro's at least considering having a Transformers show be a Japanese production? They did that in the mid-2000s, but that was a cost-cutting measure, because at the time, anime was way cheaper to be produced, and Takara was willing to pay it. These days, Hasbro seems more control, so they go a lot more local. The problem now is that being done by a Japanese production house would actually be way more expensive than Transformers wants to be. The truth is, Transformers started off as a quick cash grab line. Let's take these toys from Japan and just release them in the US so we don't have to do any work and we can spend as little money as possible. And unfortunately, that's still the mindset of the brand. Let's spend as little as possible. So if a small animation company in the US wants to do a Transformer series, fine. If a major animation house in Japan wants to do one, that's more than they're going to be willing to spend. I would love to see it again, because, the aesthetic would be very different from what we've been getting with all the CGI cartoons. I just don't think they're willing to spend the money. What do you think Anime Lockdown Cybertronian vehicle mode would be like? It probably would be like a car, potentially a hover car of some kind. The thing is, it would be way less tricked out. It would be far more boring in design. Probably shorter nose, no spikes, If we're dealing with a Cybertronian vehicle mode, that's basically before he started the Bounty Hunter thing. If we're going with canon, if you just want me to come up with like, oh, well, this would be his vehicle mode, then it would be a hodgepodge of different car parts, the kind of way he was in his robot mode. But if we're dealing with like, what would his Cybertronian mode be, and akin to like the ones they did for Ratchet and Optimus and all that, they'd be way sleeker and way more boring looking, I think. I think his personality came after he started customizing himself. In your opinion, what would Grimlock choose as an alt mode if he couldn't be a dinosaur? He definitely comes across as a tank guy, doesn't he? He feels like he wants to be something big, powerful and heavily armored. That or some kind of missile truck, one or the other. But it definitely had to be some kind of like big rolling, like heavily armored military vehicle. That's the vibe I get on Grimlock. How would you feel about a Power Ranger show done in a hybrid of traditional animation and stop motion? So animation, yes. Stop motion, no. Stop motion has gotten to a point where it can look really, really good, but again, that's going to get into costs that Hasbro's never going to want to spend because it's not a cheap process these days. But more to the point, I don't think it would mesh well. Like if you're doing stop motion for the Megazords or something, I don't think it would be like a I think it would look too off. Like to go from something that is obviously drawn to something that is obviously shot with a camera, I think it would be jarring to go back and forth between the two or intermix the two. Like I think if a Power Ranger show gets done again, I think it just needs to be animated. Just pure and simple. What would you do with Stinger as a character? So this is again writing an entire storyline, but to be brief, the one idea of Stinger is that there are a bunch of him. You know, there are a bunch of Stingers out there. There's just that one that is like the Stinger. I think the goal would be to be mass produced and hive minded. Because if we're going to go with like the B parallels, that's the one aspect there that they could have taken advantage of. Like if there's just a bunch of Stingers, if it's a mass produced, you know, answer to Bumblebee and it's hive minded and works as a unit, that means you would have a Queen Stinger somewhere. You know, that's the kind of thing that comes to mind. It's like play on the B aspect, not just a rival to Bumblebee, but like kind of play into the theme a little. Of the known TF voice actors from all cartoons and movies, who would you have the voice of the main characters from Master Force Victory and Zone? You're asking me to, you're asking me to do an entire casting call for three series. I'm not doing that. There's just too many voice actors to pick from as well. There's too many voice actors to pick from. I could spend a week figuring out that answer. What would G1 team of Maximals look like if they're introduced at the same time as the original Predacons, and what would be their combined forms name? I mean, appearance-wise, way more blocky. But I think you would end up with a team that is far more unified in color scheme. In my head, to kind of be opposed to Predaking, you would need something more like in the silver and blue realm. You know, something that's like more icy and cold rather than how hot their design looks. And I don't know what the combined name would be. I don't have a combined name for you there. That one would take time. But, you know, aesthetically, you know, it's kind of what you would expect. It would be, you know, the similar blocky G1 aesthetic, but opposing color scheme. Do you think Yola Park should start doing Action Master characters and in general characters that don't have a canonical vehicle mode? Now, it makes sense because you know, the only way they exist is as an action figure. But also, I think their bread and butter right now is just making like really nice iterations of characters without having to go into like the engineering and design complexities that comes with them being a transformer. Honestly, Action Masters like that are just not going to sell. They're just not popular enough characters or well known enough. I think they're doing good with what they're doing. I don't think they necessarily need to branch out from that. What Diaclone toy would you have based G1 Megatron on instead of the toy that we got stuck with? The thing is, there's not much in Diaclone left behind that wasn't used at some point. Like, you know, like like things like Blitzwing would have been cool because, you know, that would make him stand out and would make him a powerful type character. But really, like, we tapped Diaclone. Like G1 pretty much tapped Diaclone for all it was worth. Some of the only things left are like there's a robot based on a set of binoculars. There's a like a 6-shooter pistol character that we never did in any form. There's really not like you'd have to rework a lot in order to like pick one out to be Megatron, and we'd basically lose another G1 character. I mean, I think they overall went with the best option they had. I don't think I would change it. Like, the only other answer beyond that would be stuff that was like in the proper Diaclone spectrum, like the vehicles that combined into the robot modes. That would have made Megatron interesting. But I don't know those well enough to give you an answer on those. How would you think the later years of G1 would have fared in the US if the Japanese shows were imported and dubbed? I mean, I don't have ratings for how Transformers was doing there at the end. Like, I can't tell you if it was still like pulling in people or whatnot. I think it would have gone better than what there's having nothing. Like, they brought over the anime and just redubbed it. I think it would be better than having no cartoon on television. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. It would be interesting because if they were willing to do that, would it have saved Transformers? Would it have kept the interest alive? Because one of the big reasons why the toy line started dying out in the late 80s is because there was no cartoons to kind of push the toys. So you definitely see a huge difference if that had happened. G1 might not have died off. But then we might not have gotten G2 and Beast Wars. So, it's who knows type situation. Who do you want to see as the next missing link figure? I think the easiest answer is actually Soundwave. Because I definitely think you do a Decepticon next, and Soundwave is not terribly hard to add more articulation to, and it's an extremely popular character. And it's another excuse to release more of his cassettes, but then the cassettes would need to be more articulated. That's where the engineering trick might come into play. I want to see him as he's an easy bet for the next missing link. So is Megatron, if we're being honest, because Japan can get away with selling Megatron still. I really want to see how they handle Starscream, because that one's engineering, that one seems like it's going to be difficult to pull off without part forming, especially like where do the fists come from? Because those fists are big, like they're big gloves. Like there's no place on those skinny little arms to hide them. What would be the hardest figure to do for Missing Link? You're gonna get into weird things there. Like G1 Brawn is such a scrawny little thing. I don't know how you add extra articulation to him. That one would get difficult. Like we said, the cassettes would start getting difficult because of their size. We've seen it with Masterpiece, but having to stick to the original design will make that exceedingly more difficult. Trying to think like who are like the really weird ones. Like I just said, the Seekers themselves would be difficult. I think the ones that would be most difficult are the ones that kind of depended on part forming to get their stuff done, which admittedly is not too many in G1, but it does make a few in particular stand out. I'm trying to think like who would be like a really difficult one to do. Like Ironhide and Ratchet might be hard to do because of, again, scrawny body. I just want to see them. I just want them to have the guts to make them that way. That would be funny to me. Despite them being made of metal, Transformers clearly have the ability to turn parts of themselves into other materials or at least simulations of such to account for tires and windows and whatnot, which got me wondering about vehicles that have bodies, outer shells made of different materials like plastic, carbon fiber. Would Transformers mimic those materials for the sake of the disguise, potentially make themselves less durable in combat? So just because it has the look of those materials does not necessarily mean it is those materials. In the G1 cartoon, it very much was, because you would see windows break. You would see Autobots with flat tires. So like they were definitely made of rubber, so they can adapt parts of those bodies, but I think for most of it, like, if it looks like plastic, there's no reason for it to actually be plastic. You know, the tires are rubber because that's better for friction. So those make sense that they would just continue to use rubber tires, or a material that acts like rubber. You know, because if you're cause you're not going to get any speed on something that doesn't have the friction aspect that rubber does. Your control is going to be all over the road too. I'm trying to think. But the rest of it, like even the glass, is likely a much more specialized material. You know, it might be something that is very alien to us. So the durability aspect, I don't think is as much of a thing as you're thinking it is. You know, I don't think they actually make themselves out of fiberglass and plastic. I think they really are just mostly metal, mostly alien metals, and there's just a few things that they have to, replicate differently. But for the most part, it's just, that much sturdier. Yeah, I think it's just, I don't think there's a durability question. Have you ever tried the banana flavored ice? I know my local movie theater has made that flavor of ice in their machines. I've never seen an ice machine at my local movie theater, like of the kind you're talking about. Generally, I don't like ice flavored stuff because it always tends to feel watered down, like outside of like, an odd snow cone, which I have not had since I was a kid. But for the most part, like there's a place that does like shaved ice and flavored stuff, and like it's not my thing. It's just not for me. If I know places where I can get banana ice cream. I'd much rather just have banana ice cream, for being honest with ourselves. Let's see. Packet Transformers animated swindle listed $125. That's extraordinarily overpriced. But that's a toy show for you. With Magmatron getting a new toy, what do you think that the rest of the Beast Wars Neo characters get new toys too? That's really difficult because so many of them are very unknown in the West and would be difficult sells, not only because they are very unknown characters, but also because the repaint value is next to none. On Commander, you can get away with it. They don't really plan Commanders to be repainted. And on a lot of those, like, there's nothing else you could do with Karada. There's nothing else you could do with Long Rack. There's nothing else you could do with Break. Like... So that's where the difficulty comes in. Is that, yeah, them doing Magmatron does mean some of those characters are more possible. But also you got to think about, like, is Hasbro really going to invest the money in a figure that they're only going to get to use once? They do that enough for Studio Series, but Studio Series sells in the numbers to make up for that. Do you really think that many people are going to be interested in buying, like, I don't know, name a Beast Wars Neo character? It's a very big long shot. Very big long shot. I hope for a modern Karada. I hope for a modern Long Rack. I don't really put much faith in getting them, though. Since he's one of your favorite villains, in your opinion, which is the best adaptation of Carnage? See, for me, the best adaptation of Carnage hasn't existed yet because he needs to be in a pure R-rated movie that's not afraid of blood and gore. You need, like, the savagery of Carnage in order to really portray him correctly. I have not liked any cartoon because obviously the cartoons have to dumb them down. Spider-Man Unlimited being the absolute worst. I'm trying to think if there is an adaptation of Carnage I really liked. I will admit I did not see Let There Be Carnage because I'm not a fan of that live action Venom. I don't know. I don't know if I have seen an adaptation of Carnage that I liked the best. Like, I might have to go into, like, video game depictions to give you an answer there. What are your impressions of the Generations Thrilling 30 toy line? I find myself liking it more and more. I do like the idea. I do like the bravery that it shows. Like, here's G1 characters, but we're gonna modernize or tweak them. Like, here's I'm mixing in like Generations stuff too. I'm trying to keep this in check. I like the spirit of like we can go anywhere, do anything, which we kind of have that in Legacy right now. So, but like those toys in general were actually pretty solid. You know, the Brainstorm is super simple, but it was very cool to get a new headmaster that fully works and at that size. The Rhinox. The Rhinox is like still for a lot of people that's their go-to Rhinox because that just seems to be a difficult design to capture at the retail level. I mean, I look back at Thrilling 30 pretty fondly, I think. You know, looking back at the toys and just looking at the different directions they went in, I liked it. I did like what we got in that toy line. Favorite non-Klingon alien Trek starship? The Ferengi. Like the Ferengi, like that weird shape to it. I like that. I've always liked that design a lot. Other than obvious leader characters, do you think there are any more Japan-only Beast Wars characters toys that are popular enough to get in new figures made? Oh, here we go again. Really, I think you're looking at mostly the leader characters. So we've gotten Magmatron, we've gotten Lio Convoy. I think it's a matter of time before we get Big Convoy, and my hope is for a Galvatron. I hope for Beast Wars the second Galvatron so badly, because I love that toy, and I would love a new version of it that didn't have gold plastic stuff that scared me. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna go with that one. As far as like the main cast, unfortunately, probably not. You know, I just mentioned all three of those. It's like they're just not well known enough because they don't do anything in American fiction. You know, and then they're never on American toy lines. Who, in your opinion, is the most entertaining wrestler active today? If you're looking for in-ring work, if you're looking at in-ring work, I'd say Will Ospreay. If you're looking at microphone work, I would say MJF. And I would say if you're looking for character work, Tony Storm. If you can tell, I watch more AEW than WWE these days, though WWE is actually improving quite a lot. I really like how they're handling Cody Rhodes, because the guy like really deserves it. On top of just how well he's handling it. Do you think a crossover with Pixar's Cars is possible, with Hasbro having close ties with Disney and now Mattel? I wouldn't say close ties with Mattel, but yeah, that's possible, but you have to get Disney and Mattel on board at the same time. That might get difficult, but then again, they kind of did it with Jurassic Park, so you never know. It's very doable, though, and of course it makes sense, because transforming robots, I actually think your best bet is to do Cars-style toys with, like, Rescue Bot style, rather than trying to do, like, crossovers that are more, like, adult collector-oriented. There's going to be adult collectors for Cars stuff, but that's still very much a kid's brand, where I think, like, a Lightning McQueen you transform just by, like, pulling the leg, you know, like, pulling the back half out and everything else unfolds. I think that feels more to the vibe of Cars. You know, rather than make, you know, like, a war machine out of Mater, you know? How would interaction between the Dinobots and the Dino Force would go? Thing is, the Dino Force, it's weird that the Dino Force are written as dumb, but they sound a lot smarter than the Dinobots. Meanwhile, the Dinobots are actually a lot smarter than they sound. It's a weird dichotomy. I hate that I keep forgetting. I think it's Kakaryu. Like the Triceratops. Like I can't oh my god, I'm so bad at remembering the Dino Force names. It's the Triceratops that's a nice guy. I think he would be fast friends with the Dinobots. I think just seeing other Dino Transformers that like are like nice like he is would probably sway him to the Autobot side a lot faster than actual fiction eventually got him there. What's a Transformer where you prefer the toy design over the cartoon? For me, it's the toy look of Omega Supreme. That's really difficult for me because like my first exposure to so much of it was through the cartoon. So my brain like immediately like just like envelops itself around how they looked in the cartoon rather than how the toys looked. I'm trying to that's difficult. That's actually really difficult. And really the only two shows that are applicable here are going to be G1 and Beast Wars, because after that, they stop playing around. They stop playing around with things. Jeez, I don't know offhand. I'm struggling here. I'm struggling here. I could potentially say like Terror Sword, just because I think, you know, like basic red and black, he could have used the extra little hit of purple the original toy had. That's a maybe. Scorponok in the black and the red, you know, I do think looks cool. You know, a little bit more interesting than just like the gray and purple. Yeah, like I'm struggling to figure that one out. I'm struggling to come up with an answer on that one, because like my brain thinks of the cartoon design so first. What Kamen Rider show would be Scooby-Doo's favorite? You want me to say Ghost, but then again, we know Scooby-Doo is afraid of ghosts. So, guess what? We're gonna go with Gov, because Gov is all about eating, and that's what they like to do, is eating. I haven't even seen Gov yet. I just know it's food. So they definitely be down for the food Kamen Rider. How would you feel about collectible dials for Sentai that you turn to select a mode on a changer? I mean, I'm not sure how you make a dial work as like an appealing toy for a kid, but like just like an idea of like plug it in, twist it, you know, and that's how you get different sound effects. Could potentially work. It'd have to do something different when it's just a dial, you know? But, you know, that's not too different from what they've done in the past. Could work. If you make the dial cool enough, it could work. What is the appeal of normal action figures compared to Transformers, which I think gives more value for your money? In some cases, there is a value thing to be had. You know, like, I just bought the... I can't remember what they describe them as, but like the refreshed Ninja Turtles, the ones that are based on the original toys but articulated, new texture and all that, I got the Michelangelo from that. And the appeal there for me is like a guy is like, as an action figure, it's a lot more solid than a Transformer is. It's usually like, you know, because you're not going to get hollowed out parts that are very visible on a figure. On that Michelangelo, far more cost effective. I think it's only like $12 compared to like 25 to get a deluxe Transformer that's only a little bit bigger. Accessory. Transformers are low on accessories compared to standard action figures that use like swappable heads, swappable hands, you know, swords and guns, etc. Whereas Transformer is usually just going to get one gun. And really no compromise in how the design looks, because in order to accommodate the fact that it has to transform, you do have to make like changes to the design. You have to like accept the fact that, you know, things are gonna not look correct or not be show accurate or accurate to the comic book or whatever, because it has to turn into a car. Action figures don't have to worry about things like that. They can just be dead on accurate, just in sculpt and paint alone. So there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons. I think as a toy, a Transformer is more fun because, yeah, there's a lot more you can do with it, but there's absolutely an appeal to just action figures as well. And even I, in some cases, like an action figure above a Transformer sometimes. I know, shock. What are you placing your bets on? Titan Toy Accurate Tidal Wave or Titan Energon Tidal Wave? My gut instinct would be Toy Accurate, if only because the Titans very rarely use translucent plastic because of the aforementioned durability reasons. They stick to opaque, they stick to solid, they want to make sure that the toys can handle themselves under their own weight. That's a big thing. It's like if you make a big giant figure, like, and there's clear plastic like handling any kind of gravitational force along with it, that's going to wear it down a lot faster. It's going to break a lot easier. So if they do, I want to see Energon Tidal Wave, but I really want them to just solid green. But I think that goes away from like the Energon infused look that he has. But I would prefer that one if they do all solid colors. You know what? I'm gonna change my answer. I was gonna originally say toy accurate, but I'm gonna go Energon accurate because it's an in-show version. It's a very different color scheme, and yeah, if they just do opaque, like lime green plastic instead translucent, it'll still look really, really good. And it's still technically how he looked in the show. In your opinion, is there a must-have figure for Transformer fans to own or at least experience? Well, I think you take the number one of any of my top 10 of the deck of like this year in Transformers and apply that. As far as just like, oh, you need to experience this figure to just see how good Transformers can be. There's a lot of really clever ones. I would say that a lot of that falls into Masterpiece. You know, like, I think Masterpiece Ironhide is a wonderful bit of magical engineering. You know? I really, really love how that toy comes together and works. Beyond that, like, more retail level, like, there's been toys where the engineering just made me go, wow, that's actually really cool. Titans Return Top Spin. I'm really upset that the Wreckers line that Amazon did skipped him, because I would love to have that toy in alternate colors. And I would love more people to experience that toy because it's a really, really clever transformation on a toy that really doesn't warrant it because he is a very dead simple G1 design. But then you get the play factor of the Titan Master on top of that and how good that toy feels. Yeah, like that is like one of my like, yeah, you really should feel what this character is like. And I do mean top spin. Twin Twist is easier to get a hold of. It doesn't work as well. That mold doesn't work as well as Twin Twist, and I don't even know why. The Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine gets a Transformer. What's its name? I'm getting Scooby-Doo questions. This is a weird choice. That's hard. That's a hard one. Like, there's part of me that wants to be cheeky and call it Mysterion, just like as like a nod to the old toy line that has a few like Transformers in it, technically, in a weird way. Like I avoid like I there's catchphrase stuff. Jinkies or Zoinks comes to mind, which would be really silly names, but then again we have Party Wallop now. Yeah, that's tricky. That's actually tricky. Yeah, I'm not good at naming things. I've really never been good at naming things. Would you want an RID Rail Racer or as a HasLab or Commander class price point? Not as a HasLab. I think that would not go well as a HasLab. I think at Commander to just 3-pack the trains as a Commander and then pack in some fun additional stuff like, you know, train tracks that becomes like a wing, like extensions of the wing pack or something. That would be fun. I would be down for a Commander class set of them. Do you think we could get an underbase powered Starscream at the Titan figure size? I'm sure they would love to do a Titan Starscream, if only because that would get people to spend $200. I don't know if the underbase storyline is well known enough to get away with a $200 toy though. I would be down for it. That's fun for me. Really, like, if you're gonna do a Titan class Starscream, then it's probably Cybertron, because that's the stars. That's a bit more well known, gigantic take on Starscream. Let's see. Are there any G1 characters who, even if they receive a newer toy before Legacy, you want to see done again in the current style? Like, personally, I really want to see a Power Glide. Power Glide's overdue, considering all the other mini-bots have gotten deluxes at this point. And now we've seen where, you know, they're willing to do a deluxe-sized jet thanks to Needle Nose. Yeah, Power Glide's way overdue. Honestly, I wouldn't mind... I wouldn't mind them taking another stab at Wheelie, because now Wheelie's way too small compared to the others. Who else? Oof, there's a lot. There's a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anybody that's left that had a previous figure, then Hasbro said, okay, that checks the box. Crosshairs comes to mind, because that Crosshairs toy they did was just is a Siege Ironhide retool. It doesn't fit the character at all, and it doesn't have a target master partner with it. That one I would love to see again. That one I'd absolutely love to see again. See, do you think doing Armada Jetfire and Overload as a HasLab would work, considering unique designs for both, and this way they wouldn't have to compromise combining? Probably not, because the HasLabs have to be a certain level of popularity. I don't think that's going to apply. Also, HasLabs like to be like a complete thing. Like, it'd be really weird. It'd be really weird to put out a Optimus Prime as a commander, and then look at like Armada Jetfire and go, we're going to gate you behind a crowdfunding project. And you are not going to, and hey everyone, that's super hard to find Optimus Prime because it was so good. Everyone bought it, and we need to do another production run of it. You need to get that in order to participate in this HasLab and get the most out of it. I don't think that works. I don't think that would work. I think you just do them as normal toys, I think you do a leader class Jetfire to work as the legs. I think you do a Voyager class Overload, whose only responsibility is turning into the cannons. Let's see. What are the top 3 fandom franchises people try to get you into, but you just aren't into it? Gundam is very high on that list. Gundam's high on that list. What else? Because I'm used to peer pressuring people into getting into things. I tried Ultraman for a bit. Blazar was good, but it didn't hold my attention long enough for me. Like, I dropped it at some point. I can't get back to it, and I just don't really have a desire to get back to it. So Ultraman's up there. God, is there another one? I remember for a long time, a lot of people were trying to get me into like the super robot genre of like, here, I want you to review I want you to watch this series for me and tell me what you think. And like, it was one of the zingers, and I was like, I'm 3 episodes in and I'm bored to tears. Like, I don't know if I can go through this entire thing. So I think those would be the 3. There's a lot people try to get me into, and I'm just like, it's just not my thing. It's just not. Evangelion's up there too. I don't like Evangelion. Thank you for your dedication to your channel and videos. It's become an integral part of my day-to-day. I do appreciate that. Thank you everyone who's keeping up with me day-to-day. I know it's a lot of videos. It's a lot of hearing my voice all the time. I do appreciate the people who enjoy it. If LEGO did another Transformer set in LEGO Icons, and hypothetically they do Megatron, which Megatron design would be the one likely to get a LEGO set? It's gonna be a tank. You don't even have it listed here. It's going to be a tank, because that's just the default for Megatron now, and aesthetically it's the one that's going to get him closest to looking like his G1 self. Yeah, it's going to be a tank. It just is. I'm sure if LEGO did a Megatron, it's going to turn into a tank, and I'm also sure that someone would figure out how to rebuild that thing so that it turns into a gun instead, because the people who can like custom rebuild LEGO sets are incredible. Like, the way their mind works has to be fascinating. Someone put out instructions on how to actually turn the new Bumblebee kit into a movie-style Bumblebee. It doesn't transform anymore, but it looks spot on to like Bumblebee movie Bumblebee, even though it's made of G1 Bumblebee parts. That's absolute insanity. With Universal Monsters Transformers crossover figures being made each year, which Transformer character mold should be used for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Molten Amber. It's kind of hard. I don't want to tell people, like, don't answer questions that are aimed at me, because you're going to take my thunder away from me. But also, I'm not going to stop you from having fun. Yeah, Molten Amber nailed it. Punch, counter punch. Perfect solution. Perfect solution. The mold's too old now. But you could also get away with like animated Shockwave. If they did a brand new animated Shockwave that had all 4 modes, and the long arm and the crane, that's your Jekyll. The tank and the more monstrous robot mode, that's your Hyde. That would work too. If all the Transformer YouTubers combined into the giant combiner Mega Gestalt Megazord thing, what part would you be? I don't view myself as a major part of this community because, there's people with, hundreds of thousands of subscribers for Transformers. I'm just kind of here just poking along, halfway to my goal of 100,000. I'm just kind of minding my own business. I don't think I'd be anything major. I would end up like somewhere in the thigh. I would end up somewhere like I'm a forearm or something like that. I wouldn't be any major piece. Which would you rather get, a Voyager Leader Autobot Megatron or a Titan animated Omega Supreme? I feel like the lifespan for Titan Omega Supreme from animated is kind of come and gone. And ultimately, like, character-wise, I'm so much more attached to an Autobot Megatron. That's one that we have not properly gotten at retail, and I would love to see that. Like, don't get me wrong, Titan animated Omega Supreme would be cool. It's long overdue, but I think it's so overdue that I could live without it at this point. What theme would you like to see in a future Kamen Rider series? God, they've done so much. What haven't they done? I wouldn't mind, like, Kamen Rider being a little bit more steampunk to where you're using gears, but then again, like, I was going to say, like, Sentai used gears for one of its gimmick collectibles, but then again, how many times have we seen keys? So, I don't know, you could get away with that. More steampunky style Kamen Rider that uses gears to, like, complete the motion in the belt. That could be cool. And then everything is just kind of steampunky and, like, retro future in style, design-wise for the monsters and the riders. I know it's not likely to happen. How would you feel about a line/series that dropped the popular characters, focus on lesser-known ones? So we kind of do that at points and in times. IDW did that for 1.0. It focused a lot more on small characters, with just major characters being, like, the anchor points to the story. I kind of pitched that idea where I would like to see, like, a fresh team of Autobots who kind of view, like, the Optimus, Optimus, Bumblebee, Grimlock, that kind of realm is just, like, almost mythical in proportion. Like the same way, like a field trooper would, like, look upon Napoleon or something, like, yeah, I'm in the same army, but, like, they're so far above me, I'm never going to get to mess with them or interact with them. I just get to tell, like, about them. And that's kind of where my mindset there would be. Like, I've pitched that idea. It was just like a team that was just kind of looking for, like, where Optimus and Bumblebee and all them went to. If Metroid crossover with Transformers, how would you want it handled? Samus as her gunship is the easiest one in the world to do. Of course, it's a crossover, so it'd be a Samus-based robot mode. It wouldn't actually be her. Like, I think Party Wallop is the first time they've broken that trend and actually made them, like, the Turtles. But even then, Party Wallop has his own identity. He's Party Wallop. Yeah, I would love to see a transforming Ridley with a robot mode. That would be cool. Transforming Mother Brain would work for me as well. I think your bread and butter there is just Samus gunship that transforms into a Samus-style robot. I think that's the big thing you could do. Which transformation skeleton would you want to be used for a Liger Zero in Transformers crossovers? So, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. We've had a few Lion Transformers, but none that really, like, wowed me. I think right now your best bet for that would probably be Lio Convoy. So just so you have more of a unique look to how he turns out. Yeah, because all the other, like, a lot of the other Lion Transformers are literally just, like, stand them up and straighten their legs and arms, like, and flip up ahead. That's the robot. I just got the Transformers 1 Alpha Trion, and that's kind of how he rolls, and that's kind of dull. So you don't have a lot of Lion Transformers where it's like, oh, like this is a cool looking transformation too. Now, granted, I have not experienced the new Thundertron yet. I waited for the 2-pack in order to get it. So I'm waiting to see how that one turns out. I've heard okay things, but that one would potentially be a better suited Lion, but I cannot speak on him at the moment. Which do you prefer in Cybertron? Optimus Prime Savage Claw mode or Sonic Wing mode? Sonic Wing. The Savage Claw always felt literally tacked on. It's a cool, different style of transformation. I just don't find it all that interesting. Oh, Optimus has a big, punchy arm. I wonder what he's going to do next in the fight. He's probably going to punch. But, Sonic Wing has flight. It has extra guns. It's got swords. I think it provides a lot more variety for the Optimus Prime. My issue with Savage Claw mode is that it seems so, like, unbalanced. I'm always expecting, like, something to go on his other arm. Like, if another character, like, if you'd done it this way, if you had another character that was, like, a partner to Leo Breaker who went on the other side, or if Leo Breaker's combination involves splitting down the middle and becoming a pair of big, like, attack arms for Prime, then I'm down. Then I'm down. That would work for me. It's just the fact that it's just like, it's just the one arm. See, how would you have felt if the live action movies had copied the alternator's aesthetic for their characters? I mean, that would have been nice because then they would have looked far more like standard Transformers. They wouldn't look like, shrapnel with car parts glued onto them. You're just like making it like the nice, like you're basically just asking like, what if the Babe-verse had like more normal Transformer designs? In which case, like, yes, please. Which Star Wars timeline do you like? Legends or canon? P.S. Thank you for taking the time. My older question about Hasbro giving Playmates the toy license for Power Rangers turning into video. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. Honestly, I didn't read much of Star Wars Legends, so I don't really have a whole lot. Like, I like Shadows of the Empire, but my attachment to that comes from the video games and the toys, not nearly as much the comic book or novel. So I'm dealing with a very limited mindset here. Like, I know all the movies because I've seen all the movies. Except Solo. Screw that one. But I have not read enough of the books to tell you, like, I prefer the Legend stories. Now, I've read bits and pieces. I do like what they've done. I'll say this. I like what they did with the existing cast from Star Wars way better than what the sequel trilogy did to them. I like that way better. It's getting hard to say I like the canon timeline better because it's gone so afoul. If we're talking just like from limited experience and knowledge, I would probably prefer, like, I prefer what the Legends books did after Return of the Jedi rather than what Kathleen Kennedy did. Have you bought any new SH Figure Arts recently? It's been a hot minute since you last reviewed one. So I stopped reviewing SH Figure Arts because it felt like I was reviewing the same toy over and over again. Whereas, like, how many times can I just say, like, a toy that is designed to have the exact same joints and the exact same spots and has the same level of quality and accuracy of all the other ones? How many times can I really review those before it just sounds like I'm just rinsing and repeating? So, for me, like, it's getting rare that a Figure Arts comes out that I actually really want, Like, the Deadpool and Wolverine ones just got announced for pre-order. But I also like the look of the Marvel Legends ones, And I'd really just rather spend the $25 than, like, the $80 each. That's the other thing. Figure Arts have gotten so ridiculously expensive. The last Figure Art I bought was Kamen Rider Brain. And I bought that for like $60 because Big Bad had it on clearance, and I love the design of Brain. prior to that, I want to say the last figure arts I bought, like, we're going back here, it was like Cross Magma, and that cost me over $100. And yeah, like, that's premium Bandai, but that's way too much to spend on figure. And the only reason I did is because it was super limited, and it's like one of my favorite designs ever. I don't do Kamen Rider as heavily as I used to because I don't have the time to follow the show anymore. But I do pay attention if a figure art comes out that grabs me. I just find better alternatives these days. Like even like Monster Arts is doing their Godzilla, and from the new movie, and like I like the Hayatoy ones better, and it's going to be cheaper. You know, things like that come to mind. So like I just find better alternatives that are doing things the way I want them done. You know, there's just not as many figure arts coming out these days that hit me the way that they used to. Who would you like to be the next HasLab? I'm still in the camp of Victory's Lio Kaiser, because it's a significant enough character for people to get behind. I don't think it's one that you could do at retail because of how many different parts and plastics would have to go into it to get everyone's different colors down. The breast master gimmick is going to make it more expensive to do at retail, which means the toy itself would be limited. We've already had Hasbro complaining how much it costs to put a Target Master in with their, with their Transformers. Imagine also trying to get a Target Master in that is a gun, an animal, and a torso armor, and this thing has to become a part of a combiner too. You wouldn't get it at retail. And I don't think you get it as like, I don't think they're going to do combiner Titans anymore. I think we're beyond that. And the only two they did is because, the colors on the match, so they could share sprues and it'd be cheaper to produce. I really think it's a perfect HasLab project. They did Victory twice, so they wanted to do something different, and they did RID. I really think I want them to jump back and just because I think that's the last one that they could do that would work well for HasLab from Victory. After that, you're dealing with scraps and characters that could be done with retools. For the next Transformers series, would it be possible for a Shattered Glass episode to be made and have it released on April 1st as a callback to how the original Fun Pub Shattered Glass came into existence? The problem is you never get everyone down for a release date anymore for toys. As you've seen, it is very, very difficult for Hasbro to actually get a retailer to release something at the correct time. I have paid for things that aren't going to be coming out for, I have toys in hand right now that weren't supposed to come out for over 2 months. So getting everyone to kind of come together on an April 1st thing, that's tricky. But no, I would love for any Transformers cartoon to do a Shattered Glass episode, just so we can get that more as a thing in Transformers. Do you think we'll ever get a Circuit Breaker figure, either as a part of the Marvel line or in the Transformer line? It'd have to be the Marvel line, because she is a Marvel character. The rights to her are really weird. And she is because she is not really, she only had one appearance in the Marvel books. She's not really a well-known character. Even amongst Transformer fans, Circuit Breaker is kind of stretching it. I could see her as an accessory figure if you're going to be doing something, significant. If you're going to do a Marvel style Fortress Maximus, it's leader class, then I could see her potentially, but not, it'd be lofty. It'd be lofty. I think the chances are extremely low. Do you think an actual Micronaut series could ever be made? Isn't that the show where they did an entire series of Micronauts and then they just canned it for tax write-offs? Because I've seen that and I hate it. I hate that so many people worked on that show and they got the entire show done, 52 episodes, and then just shelved it because, it's going to make more money as a tax write-off than actually releasing it. Apparently it's still possible to release, just sitting, waiting. We are getting the original 13 Primes next year, but what design do you think Hasbro would approach for Megatronus, the Fall, and Dream? Well, we've been talking about this already, too. I'm just going to go back to it. I think it's just going to be the most popular, well-known designs. We're going to get Dreamwave the Fallen, because that's the most memorable one for everybody. Hi! Another Cybertron Galaxy Force. There's been a reveal of a Legend Scale Optimus Galaxy Convoy. Do you think it would work better and be better than the THS-01? So there's recently been a reveal of a Legend Scale Optimus / Galaxy Convoy. I assume that's third party that I'm not paying attention to. I think it basically turned out to be just like the hybrid style toy. Because that's basically what hybrid style is. It's just a shrunken down version. It's got some die-cast parts in it. That's pretty much the go-to. Like, that's pretty much it, you know? Like, you don't really need to stretch it beyond that. I think it just turned out basically exactly the same. Because there's really not a whole lot transformation-wise you can do to adjust that. At most, they might design it so that it can eventually go with a Sonic Bomber or I guess Wing Saber. Or a Leo Breaker. That'd basically be it. That'd be the only way that you could improve it, because the original hybrid style is basically just a perfect miniature version of Galaxy Convoy. If you had no prior knowledge to the 84 cast, would you assume who would you assume the leaders of the two factions were? See, that's the thing, is that, like, even with no knowledge, I think the designs for Optimus and Megatron stand out so much from the originals that I would probably still make that assumption. I might assume Soundwave would have been the leader of the Decepticons because, you know, his face is the emblem. But for Autobots, I don't know offhand for Autobots. Yeah, like, I would just kind of assume, like, the biggest car is the leader, and that's the truck. You know? Maybe Prowl. Maybe I would assume the cop car, but that's stretching it. I really do think I would assume Optimus. You teased at the end of the Plastic Attic Power Core Combiner video something else. What was it? The only thing I really teased that one is that Double Clutch would eventually get his own video, because that toy is so much worse than all the other Power Links toys. I'd have to dig it out of storage now. That's been a long time. What would you consider to be the most underrated story arc in Sentai? Offhand, I can't remember. I can't remember Sentai right off bat like this. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna have an answer. I'm trying to, like, comb my brain for, like, specific story arcs, and it's not really following. It's not really, like, it's not manifesting. You've mentioned before how you began liking the Bay designs and then dropped off over years around Revenge of the Fallen. So I'm curious what your opinion would be if the 2007 movie was first released this year. I would probably be in the same mindset of, oh, that's interesting. That looks different. You know, because that's how I was in 07. Oh, that looks interesting. That looks different. But then the further they went and the longer they stayed that way, the more it just kind of showed the disadvantage of those designs, and the less I liked them, and to the point where I am now today, where I'm like, just give me the old ones. I just want my Transformers to look like solid machines. So I think it just kind of followed the exact same way. What kind of music do you like? I tend to like just about anything. Anything that isn't country. I think country is the hard cutoff for me. I usually like rock. I even like 80s and 90s, like hair rock and that kind of style. But my modern music tastes are very like, like Imagine Dragons, Gorillaz, that kind of realm. I listen to anything that sounds decent. That's kind of where my brain goes. And then there's just like the eternal ones where, like, I will listen to Weird Al any chance you give me. And it also started raining really, really heavy here, so bear with me. Do you think a Titan-class Armada Unicron is feasible or not because of the HasLab? No, I think because of the HasLab, a Titan Armada Unicron is actually more viable because that's going to be the available option, not only to kind of go in with all these Armada toys we've gotten and to hit that little special nostalgia point, but also because it separates itself from the existing Unicron. Keep in mind, trademarks are a thing, and we haven't had a Unicron trademarked toy in a long, long time. So it's very, very overdue. It's very overdue. We need to have some kind of Unicron representation out there. What character do you think should get the master treatment in a new series? Like, become a headmaster, target master, power master. That again goes back to the usual answer of whatever it works best for the story that they're telling. I don't have like a specific, I don't really like changing depictions, you know, like when early IDW did like Headmaster Sunstreaker, I wasn't interested in that. You know, when they did like the 86 cast as Headmasters in Titan's Return, I wasn't really fond of that. When they did the 84 cast as Combiners in Combiner Wars, I wasn't really into that. I think those gimmicks are part of the character of certain Transformers, and I don't want them added arbitrarily to others. You know, I would rather you do something new, you know, rather than just recycle an old idea and slap it on an old character. So I don't really have one to pick for you. Since Hasbro isn't giving it any attention, do you think you could do something for Power Rangers, like maybe a main Megazord tier list or something? At some point I want to do a video of like, here's how I would do a modern Power Ranger series, because I do have a lot of ideas for that. I started concepting it, actually. The problem with that is I would need some like better artistic direction on it than I currently have available to me, i.e. someone would have to do the drawing for me because I don't have the time. But beyond that, like I should probably do something a little bit more in the realm of Power Rangers. And here's the thing: now that Power Rangers basically seems to be done, at least for the foreseeable future. I mean, Hasbro is auctioning off all the assets, like all the props, the costumes. Like, they're selling off everything. They're not keeping a single bit of it. Like, that's a lot of history that they're just completely saying is like, this isn't worth keeping. We are going to make more money by selling these things than we are by making new material with them. That's how poorly they view Power Rangers right now. And we'll be honest, the franchise was on life support for like 15 years. So I'm not shocked in the least by this development. I could do a little bit more Power Ranger stuff here and there. Little things here and there, because it's sometimes the algorithm works. I want to do like here's my concept for a new Power Ranger series before I do anything else. Since Star Wars and now G.I. Joe have run HasLab campaigns before their previous projects are ready to ship, do you think there's a chance the next HasLab could be revealed before Omega Prime ships? Especially, actually, yeah, especially because Omega Prime has an even longer build-up in time than the previous one. So, yeah, I think that's very doable. Do you prefer God Jinrai to be a separate character to Optimus Prime or just a power-up? They're two completely separate characters who just look the same, basically. I don't prefer one or the other, though I will say, as the rain gets louder around me, because it's, oh my god, it's really downpouring right now. I would prefer, I kind of prefer him just be a power-up of Optimus Prime, because that's kind of what I grew up with. That's the idea I grew up with. And you're getting into Transformers Master Force, which is one of my least liked Transformer series. I always found Master Force boring. I couldn't get behind that one. In your opinion, what music would Transformers listen to? Metal. Again, you're not answering. You're not asking a. You're not asking a question that has like a definitive answer. Transformers are all individual people. Would they lean more toward like electronica? Probably. Probably. Like more like synth rock? Probably. But for the most part, every Transformer is their own person, and every one of them would have completely different musical tastes. If the Infernac Universe Rock Lord characters were all one team, who would be their leader? It's hard because there's really no one who stands out as a leader type character right now. I wouldn't say any of them felt like the leader just yet. And there really aren't any other like major Infernac universe characters on the way. Like I've seen like the upcoming listings. We know what next year's listings are. I don't think we've got anyone left. Like I think they made the 3 molds and called it a day. Yeah, I don't know there really is anyone who qualifies as a leader. It'd probably be the first one because he's the first one out, and I can't even remember his name offhand. Let's see. Can Takara commission a movie based on the Japanese G1 continuity? Find creators who are passionate for TFs as make Godzilla -1. Potentially, but it would have to go through Hasbro as well. Yeah, that's a tricky one. That's a very tricky one. I mean, it's not impossible. It's not impossible, but there's a lot of sign-off, so it'd have to work for that. Do you think the voice actress for Luna from Hell of a Boss should voice a female Transformer, or it would be too hectic for her? It's Luna! No! Absolutely not. Here's the thing. Voice actors are incredibly versatile. Incredibly versatile. If you think that she couldn't do a female Transformer because it would be a too hectic of a character, one, you're not thinking about how different and varied Transformer characters can be, and you're also not giving the voice actress enough credit. So, yeah, she could absolutely play a Transformer any day of the week. Oh, another July 6th baby. Hi, happy birthday to you too. See, first felt personally attacked by the ad read at the end. It looked like Aaron Evangelist had finally seduced you over to the dark side. Talking about Diaclone reboot, by the way. Will you be giving us review videos for your new Diaclone and Waruder toys? I thought about it and I decided no. For a few reasons. Number one, they are incredibly complex toys, especially when you get into their modular play pattern. That's very difficult to demonstrate in a timely video. Also, I don't want to review everything I buy. I want some of it to literally just be for me. And I want to have some toys that I enjoy without feeling like I have to turn them into content. So, same way like a streamer plays a lot of games offline because they don't want the pressure of like people chatting during the gameplay or having to keep them entertained. I don't want to play with my Diaclone toys with the mindset of I have to figure out how to fit all this into a review later. It's going to ruin it. I'll do it with a Transformer because they're not nearly as complicated. But I'm not going to do it with something as complex as Diaclone. That's just for me. How do you create a compelling protagonist? That is a hell of a question. You give them a backstory people can connect to. You give them room in their character to grow. You give them something that people can find inspiration or aspire to, like maybe they have something that causes them to be more heroic. Maybe they have something in their past where they, something that would normally turn them into a villain, but they viewed it in such a more positive way, or like, I'm not going to let anyone else go through what I just went through type of way, that you flip it in, that becomes more of a heroic thing. It's things like that. Like, again, it's writing. There's literally thousands of ways of creating a compelling protagonist character. That's completely up to you and whatever story you're writing. Which G1 Autobot would create Energon cubes like Soundwave? Probably Wheeljack. He's probably the technical one that could do that, though he'd probably do it with a machine rather than being built in. Oh, mouse wheel, work. What's your favorite voice for Optimus Prime other than Peter Cullen and Gary Chalk? Mine's the one from RID 2001. You're talking like, I want to say Dave Kaplan? I don't know if I'm remembering that name right. Neil Kaplan. Neil Kaplan. Um, he's fine. Honestly, I really think Alan Tudyk is nailing it as like Dad Prime on Earthspark right now. He's been very good. I like what I've heard of Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime so far from the Transformer 1 previews. Um, there's a lot of really good Optimus Primes out there. There are. Those would be the two I'm going with at the moment. Favorite Robot Master or Maverick from the Mega Man franchise? So if we're going for Robot Masters, it's Top Man. I don't know why. It's a silly Robot Master because he's based on a toy. And it's not because he's a toy. I like the design. I like the spin aspect to his moveset. And then for Mavericks, Storm Eagle. It's always been Storm Eagle. It's always gonna be Storm Eagle. I love his design. The music! His stage music is the best. See, if Megatron, Starscream, Soundwave, and Shockwave are the most iconic Decepticons, and Optimus Prime and Bumblebee the most iconic Autobots, who are the other two most iconic? I think with the way they've been depicted and the popularity they have and how often they come up, I think your other two picks at this point are going to be Ratchet and Grimlock. Those would be the other two that I would pick. You can make cases for Ironhide and Prowl and all that, but let's be honest, they really don't use Ironhide and Prowl all that much. Prowl's never even been in the movies. Figure that one out for me. But no, they use Ratchet all the time. Some of the best depictions have been Ratchet, and then Grimlock's just overly popular. So it's going to be those two. All right, where did we leave off? Since you like Ankylosaurus, which is your favorite Ankylozord? Abba Ranger, Kyoryuger, or Ryusoldier? I'd probably go with the Kyoryuger one, though admittedly, like, I don't have a lot of great options. I really wish there were more Ankies out there. Could modern engineering fix the proportion issues of 3 and 4 piece combiners? So it depends on the combiner you're talking about. I mean, on something like the build team, absolutely. But on something like, say, Landcross, or no, am I thinking the right one? I'm blanking now. Oh God, I've been talking a long time, so the brain is not really registering right now. Land Caesar. If you're talking about like that one, there's way more. Like, that is a basic design problem that I don't think modern engineering is a solution for. Your solution there is just make 2 of them smaller or 1 of them bigger. So it's going to depend on the combiner you're talking about. But yeah, like, most of those combiners are getting on, like, 20 years old or more. Yeah, like, there's absolutely more that can be done now. What do you think happened to the core Dinobot and Deluxe Sure Shot was supposed to be coming in the next wave of Legacy? I know they like to complete their set, so it feels weird that Sure Shot is at least isn't being released. I don't think it's not going to be released. It's just that right now it didn't factor into the plans like they expected it to. The same way that, the same way that, like, we had characters from the Kingdom poster that got canceled, like Gears, who eventually did show up. So it's not a matter of that toy's not coming out. It's just right now they're not going to be running that toy. I'm sure that, we're going to get Sure Shot out there eventually. Like I said, I think Crosshairs needs to be redone, but, we'll at least complete that set at some point. Do you think we'll ever get new Power Masters in the next trilogy? Power Master characters? Yes. The Power Master gimmick? No. I think that the idea of locking a transformation behind a figure that can be easily lost, no, I never liked that as a gimmick. No, I think you'll see the characters because there's some like Dreadwind and Darkwing that are like long overdue for an update. We haven't seen them since Power of the Primes, and those were not good versions of them. We're absolutely due for a new set for some of those Power Masters to come back. Are you ever going to finish the Tobot thing? Okay. At some point, yes, I do have to do that because I promised it. It's way overdue. I need to dig them out of my storage bins, but yes, I will do a big troll at some point. Uh, yeah, yes, I've heard about the Skibbity Toilet movie that Michael Bay greenlit. Guess what? Last I checked, it ain't happening. Uh, Rights, legal issues, whatever. I'm glad it seems to have been canned. Thoughts on the gimmick of Kamen Rider Gav? Yeah, I mentioned it before. It's worth mentioning again. I really, 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 really do not like it. I think the rider forms look terrible. I think the actual visual of the belt is gross. Yeah, I try to give every rider series a chance. I'll still buy the toy, even if I don't follow the show like habitually. I will still like follow the show. I will still like get the toy, at least the main belt, if it looks like it's fun. But this one, no. I'm gonna be very happy to just leave my hands off of it completely. Have you ever heard of Spin Master's Ionics transforming brick building system? Would this be something you'd be interested in reviewing? Um, No, I'd have to look into it in order to really know if it would be worth reviewing or not. I'm not gonna just like buy toys that I'm not interested in just for the sake of reviewing it. It's gotta be doing something that makes me go, okay, I actually want to see how this works. Which yeah, it's kind of rare that happens these days. Do you think Hasbro would do another Unicron like in Commander class? Unicron ain't gonna be anything smaller than a Titan. Nothing smaller than a Titan. Um, the only like Commander class Unicron you might come up with is Prime, and even then you could make an argument to make it a Titan instead. Yeah, if we're getting another Unicron, it's going to be a Titan of the Armada one. That's what it's going to be. Gives everybody a chance to buy a Unicron that missed out on the HasLab. Hits another point of nostalgia. All around, that's the choice to make. Since we've gotten the Ark and the Nemesis, what do you think the chances will we get Titan class figures, the other notable ships throughout Transformers history? Depends on how notable. I would say if we're going to get another Titan of a ship, the next one in line would probably be the Axelon, since it's, it's the maximal home base for 2 seasons of that show. That's going to be the most recognizable. Potentially the Autobot shuttle from the movie. Potentially. Galvatron's capital ship, maybe. I believe it's called the Victory. Those are possibilities. I don't know if anything else is viable, though. I don't know. There's plenty of directions to go there. Which Transformers Twitch stream would be fun to watch? Thunderclash would make a fun D&D stream. I don't know. Like the entertaining streams seem to be the ones where things aren't going well. That's the sad thing of a lot of it. What you need to do is just find like the most scaredy cat Transformer character. I'm not coming up with one offhand, but they're out there somewhere, and just sit them down with Five Nights at Freddy's and see what happens. Considering how many post 86 and pre Beast Wars randos exist with real cool designs but extremely limited reuse potential as well. Oh boy. Okay. Why not use both? Let's see. Staxon Pumper from Clench and Pyro would solve the issue. Reusable, complicated obliterator gimmicks, as well as we can't be accurate anymore. Problem we win. Okay. So basically, tapping GoBots as something you could use to do obscure Transformer characters. And that's actually not the worst idea. That actually does have some viability to it if you can get characters who mesh well enough to make that make sense. I do like that idea. Yeah, it'd be a thought process to who mixes up with who, but it does ultimately work. Do you think there's any reason why Springer gets the short end of the stick compared to the other bots of the 86 cast on animation, or is it just bad luck? I don't think it's because of the animation. I think it's because he's a triple changer, and incorporating him into a show would mean that Hasbro would have to figure out how to make a triple changer with the budget that the cartoon toy lines get these days. Can you imagine, like, in Earthspark, everyone gets a deluxe at best, You know, how would you do a triple changer at that budget constraint? You can't. So I think that's why you don't see Springer. It's not that like writers don't want to use him. It's that if writers use him, Hasbro has to use him, and that makes things difficult. Do you think Hasbro will ever do TF helmets like the Black Series Star Wars ones? They do that with licensing. Like, even here at the shop, I'm looking over to my left and I see the Megatron helmet. I know they did Soundwave and Optimus as well. It's a little bit different to do helmets of Transformer characters because that is their face and their identity. Whereas like Stormtrooper helmets, you know, the whole point is anyone could be under that helmet. You know, so, it's an idea that's been done. It's an idea that's been done. I don't think they're going to do it on like a Marvel Legends scale or like, like every 6 months. Here's someone's helmet to buy. Do you think they will continue to do comic color figures? That really depends on how successful this current run was. This one was just set up as like a segment of like 5 toys to purchase, like a very self-contained toy line. But there's obvious directions they could go. There's a lot more demand building up for things like comic book Soundwave and the magenta colors. You could absolutely do more. It just depends on how well the first round sold, and it seems to have sold fairly well. So we'll see. Why do you go to MetroCon and not TFCon? Because not everything I'm interested in is Transformer based. TFCon usually would require a flight, which would make it a little more cost prohibitive than I'm willing to make it, especially for a convention where I would probably spend a lot of money given the opportunity. Also, MetroCon is family away from home, you know? Like, I've been going to MetroCon for, I think, like 16 years. You know, I know most of the staff. Like, I'm expected to be there. I'm part of the con family. It's not a vibe I could get from TFCon. Going to TFCon when it was in Orlando was great because I got to like feel like kind of important for once. With so many people coming up to say hi and wanting photos, and that was all amazing. And it's a very, very cool experience. But typically TFCon is out of my budget to be able to go to. See. Before the DVDs, how many Transformer VHSs did you have? Okay, date me, why don't you? I don't know the exact count. I had a bunch because my dad knew a guy with a local video store, and he just bought all the Transformer tapes that the guy had. So, geez, I had Fire in the Sky, I had Divide and Conquer, I had SOS Dinobots, I had the Five Faces of Darkness, which had to be special ordered back in the day, and that one I watched to death until the tape broke. But yeah, I did have a big stack of them at some point. Did you come up with the name Triad to coincide with Susan Triad character from the most recent season of Doctor Who on purpose, or was it just a coincidence? The word Triad has existed a long, long time, my friend. I actually know the word first from Mega Man X3, where one of the weapons is, the Triad Thunder. So yeah, that's not a name. That's a word, and it's just one. It's one that fit for the purposes. Who's your least favorite human character in Transformers? You can't choose Kicker because that's the easy answer. I think someone mentioned her before, and that is in Circuit Breaker, where I know she's patterned as a hero, but acts like a villain, and she's just a very unlikable character on the whole. I know a lot of people obviously like her, because, someone just asked for a Marvel Legend of her in this video. I don't like the character. I don't like the attitude. I just don't like the character. I don't like her in the least. Okay, so, do you know your Earthspark videos still aren't in a playlist? Okay, I gotta fix that. Thank you. Lynn, I already answered this one. And you can tell 51 minutes ago, so that technically doesn't qualify because it's posted in the wrong month. But we have answered this one about standouts and combiner characters. But in the Teams you're mentioning, you are correct. Those never did, unfortunately. Would you ever want to do a video on rewriting the Transformers 1986 movie? I technically did. I did a, like, what if Optimus Prime survived the 86 movie? I did that. And I even did a follow-up to explain Prime's role in Five Faces of Darkness. I meant to do a third to finish it out. And that was going to be, like, how Optimus was treated in Season 3. Megatron being handled as the one in Dark Awakening rather than Optimus Prime. How that would affect, like, the hate plague. Would it have affected the hate plague? Because, you know, they found that because of Optimus Prime being dead. So that event might not have even happened. So things like that. I've technically already touched on that one. See, you mentioned you watch more YouTube and streamers these days than TV, other than Goblin and Red Claws, or anyone else that you would like to suggest we watch. Yeah, so out of them, see, I mean, there's some Corpo VTubers that I watch, like Iron Mouse. Like, she was the whole inspiration behind this daily video thing. Because if she can accomplish everything she did with all of her limitations, what's my excuse? See, who else? Who else is on my list? I'm trying to pick few. Like, one of the ones I watch the most is Party Demoness. She might be popping up in a couple things that I've got in the works, so you might keep an ear out for her soon. But she's fantastic, chaotic. She's assembled a great group of friends that are just, you know, just like chaotic gremlins, and it's amazing. It's a wonderful time. Geez, so I need to pull up my Twitch. Yeah, I've got Zentreya on there. See, a lot of them are just personal friends of mine. You know, like, everyone from Schedule Conflicts is a streamer of some kind. So you can look up any of them. They all do good. Tiefling Melissa's on there. Cabal is on there. Sea Dog VA is on there. Project Melody. A lot of VTubers. It's a lot of VTubers these days. But, you know, that's an ever-evolving list. It's just a matter of who I find at the right time. Favorite Bayverse Studio Series figure? Probably the Grimlock. We mentioned him before. I do think that figure is beautiful and very well done. And a lot of Studio Series toys are just way too fiddly. Way too small parts. I don't really enjoy messing with them. Would you like an idea of a new Omega Supreme toy that can transform into a pizza? Why? Wait, what? I don't even know where that question. I don't even know where that question lives. Oh my god, this is too late in the video to throw something like that at me. When Hasbro going make official Sorry figures or Botanica figures? Sorry, I think it has a potential if Core Class survives, but it doesn't look like it's going to, so I have no idea there. She doesn't have a vehicle mode technically, so that wouldn't be hard to do. Botanica, engineering-wise, will be a nightmare, and I think that's just getting too far away from Beast Machines to do. I'm not putting money on either of them ever getting toys, honestly. Do you think if Hasbro really wanted to do if Hasbro really wanted to, do you think Hasbro would make a licensed line of all the G1 characters as full-blown car models like early Masterpiece, but mixed with the functionality of alternators, or is that just too much for Hasbro? You're basically asking for alternators, but with the original car models, which at that point, you're basically asking for larger versions of Missing Link. I think Missing Link's going to get around to a lot of those toys. They're just going to be scaled to the original G1. They're not just not going to be larger. Let's see. Were you angry with MGO for the 10 rules for reviewing video? No. No. I said I have no issue with MGO. Let's see. In honor of your Armada Laserbeak Plastic Addict video, I have to ask the real question. What is the comfiest TF figure to cuddle with in bed? I mean, I think that has to go to Stampy. Because he's just a big, fluffy rabbit. Like, of course you cuddle with a big fluffy rabbit if you could. See, I am newer here, but what's the dislike for Hotshot? Sorry if this is personal. Yes, Hotshot killed my grandfather. Personally. I have never forgiven him. It goes back to one of my oldest big videos, which I basically just insulted Armada Hotshot's toy endlessly because I think it is a terrible, terrible toy. And on top of the fact of, I think the character was very annoying in the show. Like, very annoying in the show. That's personal preferences, and my preferences are very anti-Hotshot. It's just become a running gag at this point. See, okay. Yeah, your comment got deleted because you started on a tirade against something in a video where I'm asking people to make questions for me. Don't go on tirades, especially if you're just looking to get people upset. You know, I will ban someone from my comments section if you're looking just to come in and make upsetting comments. Have an opinion, but be nice about it. You know, and be quick about it. Don't waste our times telling us how much you hate something. Make a video like I do. Let's see, do you think Yellow Park should start doing Action Master? We asked this one. We answered this one. Like, there's a few double posts in here. But we are at the end. And that's another repeat. What did YouTube do here? What did YouTube do here? YouTube at the very end fed me 2 repeats that they are absolutely the exact same questions we already answered. That's weird. I don't know if people double posted questions or if that's just YouTube glitching, which is going to make me worry that it skips some questions here this time. Oh well. But still, that does bring us to the end of the Q&A list, which I guess appropriately ends off on a Hotshot question. So, as usual, thank you everyone. I know these are the longest videos I make, so I thank everyone who stuck through them. And again, if you want to give me a question for the next one, then please remember the rules. Post them in the comments below here. You should all know them by now or be able to read them on screen. So, as always, thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.